guys? This is Dan Wynn.
Mike Glaspie.
Today we're going to hit on 5 must-reads for the real estate investor. So how we're going to do this is we both picked 5 top reads for ourselves, and we had 3 that were in common. So what we're going to do is go over those 3, and then we're going to each choose one that we really think is very important, and we'll touch on that read as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start. Number 1 is the Purple and Gold book, the very famous Purple and Gold book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So, Mike, you want to start with that one?
Yeah, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. This book has been given credit to by many real estate investors. And I remember when I actually first read it, as many people do, it was just way before I was mentally ready to receive the book, right? I read it in high school because somebody had told me, you should read this book. It didn't even relate to me at the time. And then later on in life, I read it again. I actually thought it was a really bad book, to be honest. When I first read it, I was like, this
really
makes sense. Yeah. And so when I read it a little bit older, at 20-something, I really started to realize what they were trying to teach you was that, you have 2 different schools of thought. You can go the poor dad route and go through this education stream and funnel where, yeah, you're highly educated, but you're still not making a lot of money. You have not created a better lifestyle. Or you could take the rich dad approach and you can actually look at life as a business and create the lifestyle that you want. Assets versus liabilities, the power of real estate. All of that became clear through that book.
Yeah, big time. For me, that book, so I read it I read it after I had dropped out of college. I dropped out of college for a couple of years, and someone slid me over that book while I was working at Auto Trader. I used to type up the words on the magazine. So in reading the book, it just completely flipped a switch and turned the way I thought about really just money. So to me, the book pretty much touched on 2 big things. His rich dad, or his poor dad, was a very, very traditional thinker, just like everyone else. I think most people in the world have the same idea of what success is, and that usually involves going to school, making good grades, being a straight A student, and then going to college, doing the same thing, and then going to work for a corporation. Well, he challenges all of this by saying, hey, you don't need to do all that. You should be looking for the experiences. Find out what you want to do. Look for the experiences. So one of the examples he gave was, instead of, I think he dropped out of college, and he understood the importance of sales. So he went and worked for Xerox, I believe, was the company, and he learned how to sell that experiences of being a salesman and what that would do for building his business. And he took that, and obviously he used that, and then he started created his first business. I want to say it was like a wallet business, I believe. And he was an entrepreneur at a very, very early age, and he took those lumps. He went the non-traditional route, and he talks a lot about doing that, going kind of against what the tradition is, and the benefits of that. And then also the benefits of cash flow, understanding the quadrant, what is it called? Cashflow quadrant.
Yep.
Yeah, so he has the E for employee in one quadrant, then the S for self-employed in the other quadrant, and then B for business in one quadrant, and then I for an investor in the other quadrant, in the last quadrant. And you want to touch on any of those?
Yeah. So for the E for the employee, that's 90% of the population. That's the people who wake up and they go to work from 9 to 5. The S is the self-employed, where they call themselves entrepreneurs and they've created a business, but they're actually working in their business. So these are the small mom and pop shops where the owner is behind the counter, if you will.
Key word: they have not created a system to take themselves out of the business in that quadrant.
And so that is all on the left side. And so the left side is essentially the working side, if you will. Now on the right side, that B stands for business or big business, where you actually have enough employees where you can step out of the picture and money is still working. And a lot of people really strive for that section. A lot of people want to be on the right side, but the I is like the pinnacle of it all, the investor, right? It's where you're literally just putting your money to work and it's continuing to work for you. And so that quadrant is essentially a diagram, a process, of whatever you may want to call it, of where you can literally set goals and milestones to move from E to I, over your lifetime.
Big time, big time. So let's kind of transition on what it did. So we talked about what the book is, right? Kind of the importance of the book. What did that book do for you? And then we'll kind of go on that, like what the book did for us. And then we'll go on to the next book from there.
Yep. And so that book for me, when it shifted my mindset to I can treat my life like a business. And it empowered me to realize that I didn't need a job. I mean, growing up, I always thought, what am I going to do? When I joined the military, I was like, I'm going to do it for 20 years. That way I can get the pension, this, that, and the third. But I realized I didn't need that. I can create the lifestyle I want doing something else. And I'm a bad employee because I always have a grand idea and I want to do things my way. Well, as an entrepreneur, I can do that, so it kind of empowered me to dig into it a lot deeper.
The book for me, I read this in college, like again, as I was right when I dropped out for a couple of years, tried the 9-to-5 thing, and it wasn't going very, very well. Just like you said, I'm not a great employee because I have a lot of ideas and ways, efficiencies and things. And there's a lot of bureaucracy that kind of prevents those changes from happening very fast. So very, very similar story. I joined the military after reading that book with the intent, hey, I'm going to stay in the military because I like what I'm doing. I have no issues. I like serving my country, and I really like working with soldiers. That's the big thing. But I figured, hey, I can do this while I'm in the employee quadrant. Even though I'm in the military, I'm still in the E quadrant, right? But I can still be buying in the B and the I quadrant. I can be building myself, kind of like taking a lesson from Robert Kiyosaki. Again, he joined the military for those same exact skills. Like, so I'm in the military for the experiences, for the skill set that I gained from this, the leadership skills. I get to, be in charge of anywhere between 25 and 40 dudes at any given time. That's a small company. That's a multi-million-dollar company pretty much if you have that many employees. So I get to do that, and I get to get these reps, and I get to build on these leadership qualities and leadership skills and my management skills and my delegation skills and things. So I'm in the military learning those skill sets. Yes, I'm serving the country, but I'm also gaining skill sets that are going to help me are going to help my business that I've already created a business now, but are going to help my business basically. And that's what the book did for me. It kind of took me out of the mindset of like, hey, I need to work somewhere and I need to stay there, and put me into the mindset, hey, I need to work somewhere so I can gain an experience from it. And then I can put it into getting myself over to the B and the I quadrant. I think we've both done that. We've both done the same exact thing. So that's what it did for me.
Absolutely. Book number 2 is Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich. That book is Think and Grow Rich is by Napoleon Hill. It's an excellent book. I think if you look up top 5 best books, literally just period, Think and Grow Rich is usually amongst those top 5 just because it's a very, very well written book, and it was written in like the early 1900s, like very, very early. Very, very early 1900s, and all the principles and things taught in that book are still applicable today. So in the book, he talks a lot about essentially your mindset and what you need to do to prepare yourself to be successful in the business world, right? He talks about the power of like auto-suggestion, the power of mastermind groups, the power of he just literally breaks everything down into its own piece and explains why it's important and why it's going to help you become a more successful person at whatever field that you're trying to get in. I think it's just an all-encompassing book. Do you have anything to say about it?
Yeah. So, I mean, Tony Robbins says, success leaves clues. And when all of the wealthiest people in the world accredit the same book to some of their early financial success, Think and Grow Rich, there's obviously a reason. That book, just like Dan was saying, I mean, you're gonna touch on all these topics of small things like sex mutation, like how sexual tension can actually be a positive in your business or a negative, and all these different things that you have to realize is they all relate to your finances. in some way, shape, or fashion. And once you can truly grasp that every aspect of your life correlates with your financial well-being, now you can truly take control of it, and it gives you a sense of empowerment like no other. And it's a really strong, really, really powerful book.
What are one of the key takeaways that you took from it?
Was a essentially that. I mean, one of the chapters that kind of stuck out the most was kind of like desire. So you know how the law of attraction was made very popular, but people misconstrue that, or they get that kind of twisted. They think, hey, if I think a million, I will be a million. And it's a little bit more than that, right? Because you can't just think, you can't walk into your job and be like, I think I'm the CEO, so I'm going to tell you what to do. It doesn't work like that, right? But in that book, it kind of really hones in to the specific, I guess, nuances of when you think, when you desire it strong enough, when you truly want it so bad in your bones that you're willing to wake up at 4 a.m. You're willing to stay, get 3 hours of sleep. You're willing to work 3 jobs. You're willing to study on the side. When the desire is strong enough, things actually become reality. And the way it kind of breaks down that chapter of desire, it was like, all right, it's time for me to actually grow rich instead of just thinking it, right?
I think in that specific chapter, he talked about, I don't remember what the man's name is, but he wanted to work for, I want to say Dale Carnegie, I think.
He wanted to work, oh man, I think it was Thomas Edison. It was somebody.
Yeah, that's what it was. He wanted to work with Thomas Edison. Yep.
And that guy in that chapter, he wanted to work so bad that he was willing to go and work for free. Gary Vee says that all the time, right? He says, hey man, put all that crap to the side, and you should be willing to work for free to follow somebody that you want to mimic, or that you want to follow in their footsteps. This guy went there and worked for free. He went out and he sold telephones for them. And he became one of the top salesmen in the area just so he could get a chance to partner with Edison. And long story short, he worked his way up to be a partner, and he became a very, very wealthy, all by working for free and proving himself because he wanted it so bad. And that's the type of desire that just gets my blood pumping just thinking about that.
There you go, man. There you go. So that was a great chapter to me too. And then as far as me, the two big key takeaways for me, one chapter was the chapter about masterminding. And I think that chapter is just phenomenal. It basically talks about, getting with like-minded individuals, getting around like-minded individuals. And that's why, I talk to Mike all the time, because he's very, very inspirational. You guys see the energy and the, and the fire in his eyes, so getting around people that want to be where you want to be at, but not just want to, that are taking action, that are actually doing it. That's the key difference, because there's everybody, if you ask everybody, hey, do you want to be a millionaire? Every single person is going to say yes. But there are only a few people that are willing to take the actions that will eventually make them a millionaire or decamillionaire or whatever success is. Maybe not even in terms of monetary, but like any level of success. Getting around those type of people, consistently talking to those people, keeping each other accountable, setting goals. Me and Mike talk every single Sunday, and we're trying to build something together. And we push each other, pushing each other, and keep me accountable. And that's pretty much what it's about, because the power of the mastermind will take you much, much, much further than you could ever go by yourself. So that's one. Then number two is the power of the subconscious mind. And to me, it kind of goes along with desire a little bit, but the subconscious mind, it's we're going to talk a little bit about it in one of the other books as well, but being able to, you can't see opportunity unless you're willing. You can't, how's that quote go? Like, if you're looking for opportunity, you'll see opportunity. I guess that's kind of what it is. So if in your subconscious, if you're always thinking, if you're always trying to figure out a way to not just become more successful, to I guess get better at whatever field you want to get at, then you'll typically see opportunity in that space. One quick example is once you buy a yellow beetle, right? If you own a yellow beetle, you'll start seeing them everywhere on the road, right? Like you've always seen them, but you just never subconsciously have picked up on them. So we got the next book after that is The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. You want to speak to that, Mike?
This book here is powerful, so powerful, in fact, that it is a required read for any person that we bring onto our real estate team, whether they're an agent, a full-time admin, even if it's an intern. We require everybody to read it. So, what it is, how Elrod, his story is very powerful. He was in a situation where he was in a really bad accident where he believed that, one, he was surprised that he lived. But even after they said, yes, you may live, the quality of life is going to be really bad. And he was like, no, I refuse. I refuse to be a victim. And he went through this process where he said, all right, let me research what some of the top individuals, top CEOs, top executives, whatever, what are their habits? What is it that they actually do? What he found over time was some people do meditation. They accredit their things to meditation. They accredit it to exercise. They accredit it to journaling, you name it. But what he realized is that across the spectrum, there are 6 things that everybody does, but he never seen anybody do all 6 of them. So he was like, all right, I'm going to do all 6 of them, and I'm going to do that every morning. What he found was that these are just the same habits that all these top successful people do, but he combined them all together, and he did it every morning. And what it does for you is it just truly focuses your entire intention for the day, and your level of productivity just skyrockets at it. So to kind of cover what those are, he gave it a beautiful little acronym. I guess there's 6 of them, not 5. A beautiful acronym called SAVERS, because for him it was his life savers, right? And so the first one is silence. Silence can be meditation. It can be praying. What it essentially is your time in complete quiet where you're self-reflecting. That's the purpose of it. The next one is affirmation. He actually goes through a beautiful way to create a true affirmation. So affirmation, a lot of people will walk around and says, I am powerful. I am rich. The way that he does it is a lot of times you could say that, but it doesn't really cement it in. So he has a way of saying, hey, I am committed to, through actions of. And when you say like that, you essentially create a game plan, but it's in your affirmation. Very powerful. Next one is vision. Just like a visionary board or whatever else, but it's your time to reflect and truly feel, taste, and sense that level of success, whatever it is in your life. The next one is exercise. Now, exercise does not have to be the full-blown gym. The intent of it is to get your blood pumping in the morning and get those vitals going, right? So you can do something quick, like a quick yoga session. And then if you want to go to the gym later, you can do that. The next one is reading, because the average CEO reads 60 books a year. So he reads, and it's not a fiction book. It's some sort of self-development, self-improvement book. And the last one is scribing. It was just his way of saying writing, right? Because he wanted to make it sound good with savers. But writing, journaling, again, a self-reflection where you can actually write out your feelings, your emotions, and your intent for your goals and everything else.
Yeah, big time. I think that book is extremely powerful. Just the actions of doing all of those things in a 1-hour block. So the way he kind of recommends doing it is in a 1-hour block, each one 10 minutes. So you have 10 minutes each one. That makes up your miracle. I think it calls it miracle hour, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that makes up your miracle hour. And by doing that, you're consistently, you're literally doing everything that every successful person does in 1 hour. So the way he describes it is if you can't find 1 hour to work on yourself or to make yourself better, everything else you're doing throughout the day is kind of, you're just kind of floating through life basically. And what the key takeaway for me in that book and what it did for me. Well, one, the key takeaway is for me, I like my favorite ones out of all of those are affirmation and visualization. And I typically do, silence, affirmation, visualization. And I know that you're kind of, the way he kind of recommends doing it is kind of splitting it up, right? But I kind of do all 3 of those at the same time. And it to me, it's really, really powerful, especially the visualization piece. I think we were just talking about this last week. I just started adding a new piece to my visualization affirmation. I start saying, hey, I own a 50-unit apartment complex. And then I kind of close my eyes and really, really think and feel and put myself in the space, that put myself in how that feels and the type of cash flow that I'm bringing in and what it's doing for my family. I picture my family outside of the building, you know, we're taking pictures and we're doing things like that. And that really has not just lightened my mood, but has made me feel a lot better throughout the day. Because I was kind of in a funk a little bit, and that really helps out, and it keeps me thinking about you know my goal, my immediate goal, my 1 year goal, pretty much. So I think it's really good. So how
Yeah.
about you, Mike?
I mean, my takeaways were essentially it's a blueprint now. I found, I know you've experienced this too. When you start to really expand, time management becomes a huge hurdle. And so typically when you have blueprints, checklists, or systems, things kind of go a little bit smoother. Well, what Miracle Morning did for me is it gave me a blueprint for my entire day, essentially. Because by setting aside that morning block, it gets me in the right mindset. It rechannels my focus. And so the day is very deliberate, which is super powerful. And sometimes, I mean, things happen, right? So you don't get the full hour in. But I mean, even if I just took a minute or 5 minutes from each one, it still kind of like kickstarts that gear. And now my body knows, okay, it's game time. And what we found is like, when, again, it's a required read for everybody on our team. Any of us, at least between the three, the leaders of the real estate team, we can walk in and we can see, okay, they have not been doing their miracle morning. You see, it's that powerful that you can tell when somebody's off. And we'll just go and talk to them like, have you done your miracle morning? Well, no. Boom. Easy. It's easy to tell, right? So it's just something that's so powerful that it truly does change the entire dynamic of your day, just the energy that you pursue.
Big time. I definitely agree with that, especially with the deliberate piece. I mean, because you hit it on the head, like deliberate and consistent action, right? That this helps you achieve and take that. So big time. So next book. So we got Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich. And then we hit the Miracle Morning. So these last two books, so the first three books we both decided on, we both had them on our top 5. The last one, we decided to choose one of the different books that was important to us. And my book was The 4-Hour Work Week by Timothy Ferriss. And I think this book is extremely powerful and extremely important for any real estate entrepreneur, just any entrepreneur in general, because just like we talked about in the last book, a deliberate and consistent action and time management, this book helps you do that. So this book talks about systems. Now, essentially, to me, what this book summed up in one word is systems. The importance of systems, how to create systems, and how to maximize systems and use systems to maximize your time, right? So in the book, what he talks about is creating, basically using different apps, using different websites, and of course, like systems to help you further along your business. So for example, so some of the systems that I use now, and I have a virtual assistant, I have a couple of virtual assistants, and in order to like take away my time, so I'm not spending so much time editing videos or posting stuff to social media. Well, you basically, I created the system, I did it myself for a while, and then I made a video format, basically a screenshot of exactly how I do all these things, and I put it into a folder. And then for my virtual assistants, I say, hey, look, go watch this video. It teaches you how to do every single thing you need to know from the system that I built up. And basically, you're going to take it from there and just execute. I created the system, delegated it out to someone else, and now I get those 3 hours of my life back, and I can dedicate that time to something that helps me, that I'm good at, basically, that I'm better at. If you can make the system and you can put someone in place, even if they're 85% as good as you are in that thing, it's still going to be better for you because you get that time and you get to take and put that time towards something that you're better at. So you can always build that person to 90% or 95% to be as 95% as good as you, or even 100% as good as you. But you have to kind of coach and coach, teach, and mentor them to do that, I guess. But essentially, like I said, it's all about systems. It's all about maximizing your time, and I think it's very, very important, especially for someone like me who, I have I'm in the military, and then I'm also running a business on the side. So I don't have that much time to do a lot of things. So I have to systemize pretty much everything. There's a system for every single thing that I do, and it's documented for the most part, and I can easily pass it off and put people in place where I need to take over that key component of the business, and I can continue to focus on what I'm actually better at. So, yeah.
I will say one thing about that book. Me and you talk about it all the time, that in order to really grow, you have to leverage. And this book is not written like a typical novel. This is almost like a textbook of like, this is the websites you go to. These are the things that you do for the VA. So, I mean, it's a great blueprint, again, that you can literally just pick up and follow step by step to create these systems. And real estate is simple, but it's not necessarily easy. You have to put in the legwork. And so for those like yourself, where you're like, hey, I'm ready to leverage, I'm ready to actually only work 4 hours out of the week, you have to first work 80 hours a week to set up the systems, right? But once it's all done, it'll be self-perpetuating. And that book does a really great job of helping you really kind of see the bigger picture. Like, okay, I'm going to do a lot of work up front, a hell of a lot of work, but it's going to be worth it because I'll be sipping Mai Tais in Costa Rica, you know, while I'm working for 4 hours on the business.
Yeah, big time, big time. You hit the nail like exactly on the head. He created a system. I mean, he has like an internet business basically. He created the whole entire system. He put a boatload of work on the front end, and then he basically delegated it out. He has a bunch of different VAs doing everything for him. So now he spends his time dancing, salsaing, and just like you said, drinking Mai Tais on the beach. You know, so yeah, it's good stuff.
Tequila.
All right, so what about the fifth book?
The fifth book, it's a powerhouse. All right, it's called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. So this book, man, this was actually the game changer for me personally. The overall concept of the book is about compounding your habits over time. One of the first paragraphs, they talk about, would you rather have $3 million today or a penny that doubles every day for 31 days? And many people would say 3 million. Yeah, I'll take the 3 million. I don't need the penny. Well, the penny, when it doubles to 31 days, ends up being worth over $10 million. You can do the math if you don't believe me. But the point is, it wasn't until day 30 that it actually became worth more than, you know, the $3 million or the whatever it was, right? So it wasn't until day 30 where it became more, and then day 31, it obviously doubled again and to become worth 10 million. The concept is like, hey, these little habits that we do, these little steps that we take, they're going to build up over time. Now, as a real estate investor, everybody's always worried about, oh, well, I want to get the $10 million apartment complex. That's fine, man, but that's the end goal. That's the compounding effect of it. What's important is we take step one. We first read the book about how to own it, right? We first make a smaller purchase that we can afford, whether it's with partners or whether it's by yourself. And as you begin to build up that experience, you begin to build up that network, that net worth, that resume, essentially. Now you can go to the bank and say, hey, I'm ready to bless you.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Now you can go to the bank and then you can take down the bigger deal, right? So it's all about those small steps. And in that book, it breaks down many different scenarios outside of just finances. It talks about losing weight. It talks about getting fit. It talks about your relationship and marriage and how you are ultimately in control. And so for me, what it showed me during that time frame in my life, it was part of the time I was in the military, and I decided, you know, I can't do this forever. I need to find something else. So when I read that book, it essentially enlightened me to the idea that I'm in complete control. I am in complete control of my life. And it all started now. So everything I've done since I read that book has compounded slowly over time to where I am now. And by no means am I nowhere near the end of my journey, but now I know everything I do now is going to be exponentially more impactful or greater, right? So it's a super powerful book. It's really about mindset, but once you get over a lot of these mental obstacles and hurdles, your business will begin to expand exponentially.
Big time. I guess the analogy I look at it as is kind of like the snowball effect. You start, it takes you a while to like start building your snowball, but every single time you make a roll, you're adding to the pile, you're adding to the ball, right? And as you continue to push, obviously it gets more massive and more massive and more massive. So all the things that you're doing now, as long as, especially if it's deliberate, all the deliberate actions you're taking down are getting you to your bigger end goal, which is great. So yeah, so those are our top 5 books. Do you want to hit on a couple of the honorable mentions?
Honorable mentions. Rich
Yeah.
Babylon was there. The One Thing by Gary Keller was also another one. And then 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Those are another 3 honorable mentions. Do you have any other ones that we might have missed?
Yeah, I had the Monk Who Sold His Red Ferrari. That was the last honorable mention that I had on there. And then also Wealth Can't Wait. I think that's a really, really good one as well. So yeah, those are the honorable mentions. Those are our top 5 picks that every single real estate investor, or really just every entrepreneur period, needs to read to become successful. Just like Mike said, hey, every CEO reads a minimum of about 60 books a year. Now, you don't have to actually read the hard copy book. A lot of people aren't really taking advantage of the audiobooks. Man, we're on the road. Think about how often you're on the road. You're on the road all the time. Dude, all you got to do is pop in not a tape, your app. Get on your app and download a book, and you can be listening to the book on your road. I crush like at least one book every 2 weeks, just literally just by listening to it on the road. It's too easy. So yeah, those are our top 5 books. Mike, you got any last words?
Nope, guys, get out there and start taking action, right? Read, just like Dan was talking about. You got Audible, Blinkist, Click It, Chirp. There's so many. I don't even know the names of all of them. There's so many out there. There's literally no excuse. I don't care if you just Google summary highlight points, right? Books are books. A lot of it is fluff just to kind of grab you in there, but you need to start taking away these key points, and don't just read, apply. Okay, it does you no good to read and educate yourself if you're not going to take action. So go out there, start picking up some books, read it, and apply it to your daily life now.
Yeah, that's the major key, that action piece. I mean, we can read as much as we want to, but a lot of us get caught up in the analysis paralysis of and then don't actually do anything. So we got all this information. Go freaking take some action. And with that, this is Dan Wynn,
Mike Glassby,
signing off.